Hey guys, what's up? Here is Zale from Boutique Tone, and today we're gonna dive deep together into one of our latest release, which is the Mesa Boogie Mark V preset pack. So as you can see now, we're using the interface of the Tonix, the plugin version, but please keep in mind that these presets are available also for other plugins alongside with most of the modelers in the market out there. Check out our website to see the compatibility with your own device. So inside of this pack, we have 24 different presets, so there is going to be a lot to talk about today. Those presets are based on the 3 channels of the Mark V itself and are divided in different categories: clean, drive, and high gain ones. So let's get right into it. So starting off with clean tones, we have 3 different presets and each one of them has a very different voicing. So let's start out with the preset A, based on channel 1. It's a clean one. Let's play the pickup. Second preset, which is immediately darker in comparison to the previous one. So guys, over here, as you can hear, tone is very different. Sometimes you might get fooled from the fact that you don't like the tone straight away out of the preset, but please keep in mind that you can always tweak all these knobs over here to get the tones that you like the most. Most of the time, maybe the guitar that we're using is not the same that those presets have been built around, so it's always nice to remember that all these knobs are over here for you to be dialed in until you fine-tune it and get the perfect tone you're looking for. So for example, now it might sound a little bit too boomy for me, so I can decrease the depth over here, as you can see. Let's try to crank it up and you can hear it's very boomy. But as soon as I reduce it, maybe I bring it to 0 just to let you hear how much of a difference it can make. And I bring it back just a little bit less than it was at the beginning, so right here. So maybe I can split the pickup and maybe I can reduce a little bit the mids and crank the trebles. And why not? I can also crank the reverb a little bit more. So now I have this sound. So yeah, that's just to let you know that you can always tweak the sounds and get the things that you're looking for. So don't get too crazy if you don't find the right tone right away. So let's move to preset C. More open and glassy, I would say. Let's maybe crank up the reverb a little bit more and the gain. So we can play something like So let's move to the next preset, which is the letter D at least I should say, which is the first driven one, and it's always based on channel 1. So let's hear how much of a dynamic range it can retain. So as you heard, it's a very dynamic preset. It's really up to you. It just depends on how hard you pick with your right hand to get the most saturation out of this channel. So let's move to preset E. Compared to D, a bit darker, mid-focused. So the very nice part about these type of sounds is that you really have a lot of variables at your fingertips. It just depends on how much dynamic you want to use. Let's make an example. I can maybe split the pickup and reduce the mids a little bit, crank up the treble, maybe a little bit of bass, and go wild with delay and a bit of reverb too. Maybe not the room one, maybe we go for the plate. Okay, let's go crazy. A lot. But you can create this type of sounds. Very nice. So it's now time for preset F. So preset G. This is one of my favorite presets so far because it's one of those who retains the maximum amount of dynamic range. It's not too much because you still can get some sort of clean tones, rolling off the volume and pick it lightly, but it's very overdriven to the point that you almost get to the tightness of a good chug when you palm mute. I'll show you in a second. Let's roll off the volume over here. You hear? So the chug when you palm mute are not as tight as you would have had with a bigger amount of gain or a different preset, but still it's there. It's very aggressive. let's raise a little bit the reverb and the delay. Let's go down a little bit with the mids and the depth, and let's crank the treble and the presence a little bit more. And then we have this tone. The same sound, I was able to achieve this. So that's a very nice preset. It's finally time to move on to channel 2, where clean tones are not in the equation anymore. It's definitely a more compressed and overdriven channel, but still retains a lot of dynamic range. So I'll start out with the first preset, which is the mildest one, I will call it, which is preset A, channel 2, Drive. As you can hear, it's just a very solid rock tone. So let's try it out. So I do really like this sound, and let's say that in your shoes, you're trying for the first time this preset and say, okay, I like this tone, I like the voicing, I just want this tone to be more distorted and ready for an alternative rock or a metal band or a modern metal band. So let's try to dial in and fine tune it. First thing, I will just crank up the gain because I can. A little less of all the way up. Maybe we can increase the mids a little bit more to get some grunt out of it. I will reduce the treble just a tiny bit because I want to increase the presence at the end. Fine. And maybe then we can reduce the depth a little bit so it doesn't get too boomy. So you can see that definitely tweaking a bit, everything over here, it's there for us to be used, and it can transform the sound for real. So please consider these presets as great starting point. Once you find the tone that you like, don't be scared of dialing some knobs and find the tone that you were looking for, because you can really transform it. Just start out with something you like at first sight. So let's move to preset B. Which is basically, it has the same voicing of preset, just a little bit more gain. Probably I should started with this one to get to the tone I was dialing in before, but once again, you can just tweak it a little bit and get the tone you like. Preset C. So as you can hear, still we are in that type of range where we can really have a solid rock tone, but it's not enough to chug or not so tight. Because when you have a tight sound, you lose a lot of this dynamic range. So we can crank it up a little bit later on. I'm gonna show you, we can use a little bit of a trick to achieve that level of tightness. But really, this second channel sits in that very nice range where you can achieve some solid rock tones without just getting too far ahead with distortion. So So let's move to preset D. Definitely darker, warmer, very good for solid rock riffs. But maybe we can also take advantage of this roll-off in the high frequencies to use it for leads or arrangements when we are in a higher position of the fretboard, especially in a dense mix with octaves or small leads. Believe me or not, this type of sounds might sound not too pleasant by themselves, especially with such tiny leads that I was playing now. But most of the time, small arrangements like this are very useful to get a balanced mix. So always try these presets if it's possible, alongside with backing tracks or when you're playing with a full band, because it makes a whole lot of difference to hear the sound by itself or inside of a mix. So this is just my rule of thumb when you're trying new presets, because some of those might be very pleasant by themselves to hear, but they won't find their own space inside of the mix. So always check it out with a band and adjust. And if you don't have a band, or if you cannot do this with a band, then just try out with some backing tracks, whether they are on YouTube or you do it by yourself. Just try it out and the mix. It makes a whole lot of difference. It's now time for preset E, always on channel 2. Some big modulation going on in here. There's a chorus, right? So please remember, you always can adjust chorus, delay, reverb, whatever type of thing that you can have here. Also the compression, you can remove it, put it back. Same for noise gate. So you have all these controls. I know I'm telling you quite often today, but I don't want you to get too stuck because you don't like the sound by itself. Just try to remove or add something and see if you can go from there. So yeah, it's a very nice tone. Once again, very dynamic, that can be used for arpeggios, for example. Yeah, the amount of dynamic range never stops surprising me with these presets. So, super cool. Let's move on to preset F. We're getting into that heavy territory. Preset G. There's one chugs. Very fun one, I'm gonna be honest. Preset H, and I just dropped D my guitar, so you know it's getting heavier. as you can hear, we're getting closer and closer to the tightness we were looking for, or at least that I was looking for, because this is one of the best rock solid sounds you can achieve. Definitely we could crank the gain up, but I just wanted to take a second to show you, maybe you already know, but if you didn't know, it's a good trick to learn today, how to achieve that tightness without doing the same old mistake of cranking the gain from the amp. Because if we crank too much the gain from the amp, this is what happens. So we get that very distorted tone, but it's very boomy. It's very, it has a lot of low ends and it resonates too much. And if we need to tighten this thing up a little bit, there is a good trick that we can use. So whether you're having a digital gear or a physical gear, you can use this trick. So basically, you can take the simulation. So it's not very fancy over here, but it does the job. It's the first plugin that I could open up. And basically this is a tube screamer simulation or whatever type of overdrive you might have. So it's not important that you have a tube screamer. The only important thing is that it's not a distortion pedal, but it's an overdrive pedal. So once you have this overdrive pedal, you can place it, and it's very important that you follow this step. You place it before the head. So the signal of the guitar gets into the overdrive, and the signal already overdriven gets inside of the amplifier. And the amp works extremely differently because it doesn't retain all the frequency range that usually the guitar should have. So it cuts some of the highest and some of the lowest, and it tightens up the sound, and it sounds so much better and so much more aggressive. So I'll let you hear. We don't need to crank the distortion too much in here. Actually, we can reduce it a little bit if we want, because we don't need that much distortion from the amp. We can go even a little lower, where it gets kind of goofy, because it's not so solid. And then we just crank all the way up the volume, reduce the drive at the bare minimum, I mean, not more than this, and we adjust the tone to our taste. And let's hear it without. And with. So that's kind of an extreme example, and not everybody had to be a metalhead like me, but it's very important to know that if you want to achieve this kind of tightness, this is a good compromise. This is a good thing that you can do, whether in the live world with real pedals or with simulations like here. It's important that you place the overdrive before the amp or the overdrive before the plugin itself. So that is it. I'll let you hear it once again without. Very goofy. With. Because to achieve the same type of sound, I should just crank up all the gain over here, but I wouldn't cut out the bass and the ultra bass and the ultra highs. So those frequencies will still impact in the mix, will still be boomy or harsh and difficult to manage and to be EQ'd later. And I wouldn't have the same type of boost or push that I'm obtaining by the use of this overdrive. And it will force me to play very strong with my right hand, get fatigued, and doesn't sound that good. So that's it. Very interesting. So it's now time for channel 2, preset J, which is the last one of channel 2, sorry. very rich, still mid-gains oriented type of tone. I say mid-gain because even if it says high gain, which might become cranking up the gain, still it depends from how hard I pick, and I tend to pick very hard, as you might have understood. But if I pick less, and as I pick harder, it might be very interesting also to play with a split pickup. Very, very nice. So it's finally time to move to channel 3, and you'll hear straight away it has a completely different tone. It's the more compressed and overdriven channel of the amp. So let's take it a listen. Let's take a listen of the voicing of the first 3 or 4 presets with the same riff, so you get a grip. As you can hear, there is a massive difference in between those 4 presets. They all have almost the same amount of gain, which by the way is tweakable, as we already know, but it really depends on you, which type of sound you want to achieve and which type of use or case scenario is the one that you are looking for. So just dial in, just try it out, because this channel is very, very hot and saturated. And being so mid-focused and scooped, in this application that I will have with this very guitar, I will probably use this channel for leads rather than riffs, because probably, as you heard, maybe the preset C was the tightest one, but I was able to achieve tighter sound with channel 2. So it just depends on what you want to get out of it. So just make the most out of it. Let's move on the E preset. So I guess we found our lead tone. So we're almost done. There are just 2 presets left. So let's move on with preset F. That's definitely the heaviest tone that I tried out. The cool thing that I need to point out is that all these sounds from top to bottom, it was more of the sound telling me what to play rather than me forcing to play something that was not within the range or the possibility of the sound itself. So it's very nice to let these presets to guide you and inspire you to play something that it's let's say matching the vibe of the preset itself. So guys, congratulations, you made it to the last preset, and if you had fun as much as I did testing out these sounds, then please stick around, because I have a little bit of an advice to give you if you're getting some trouble in getting these tones or the tones you like out of this puck. So this is the last one, preset G. And if I told you that preset F was the heaviest one, I was wrong. This is definitely the heaviest one. So one last piece of advice, guys. If you're not achieving the sound that you're looking for just straight out of a preset, don't panic. There are a lot of things you can do to address this problem. First and foremost, as we said and as we saw before, you can tweak all these knobs over here and really fine-tune the sound as you preferred, as we saw. But if you can get the sound that you're looking for out of these little changes, then you might be looking for a big change over here in the input response tab. As you can see, there are a lot of different cabinets. I do have a whole lot of cabinets, but with this preset, it comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different cabs. So what are these input response for? Those are basically the simulation of a cabinet. You see that the name over here is MkV. It stays for Mark V, and you have a lot of different cabinets, 2x12, a 4x12 Alnico, 4x12 with V30. You have a lot of different choice. So just to let you hear how much you can change the sound when you change the impulse response, I'll let you hear. So in here you have the V30 4x12 balanced, which is the one we're currently using, and it sounds like this. But let's try the other ones, for example these. Unbelievably different. Alnico. A lot of low end and bottom end. Fat, which I highly suggest to use maybe with a single. So as you heard, changing the impulse response can change dramatically the sound of your preset, of your guitar, of your rig entirely. So don't be shy to try out, because there are 8 different options over here. But if you don't like any of those, maybe you might try out some other impulse response that we have on our website. So once again, don't be shy, try them out and find the one that really suits your needing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope you found out some new cool things. And if you have any further doubt or information to ask us, please don't hesitate to write down in the comments. We are more than happy to answer to all your questions. And if you also want these presets or other presets to be tried out with the specific guitars in specific case scenarios, we also would like to build contents around your needings and requests. So don't hesitate to write down in the comments. Once again, thanks for sticking by. I'm Ale from Boutique Tones, and see you until the next one. Cheers.